How do you do?
Hello, my old chap. How do you do?
You look very well. Keeping well?
You look marvellous.
Thank you very much.
What's up, Doc? I beg your pardon.
Oh, well, what I do is I look a woman up and down and I say, hey, how you doing?
So how have you been?
What's up?
Oh, God.
So were any of those phrases familiar? They are, of course, all alternatives to saying that very famous phrase, how are you? However, saying how are you all the time gets a little bit repetitive. And in fact, native speakers use lots of other phrases in different occasions. We don't always just say, how are you? It's probably the same in your own language. Think now about how many different ways you can say how are you in your own language. So today we're going to look at 15 alternatives to saying that famous phrase, how are you? And we're going to look at formal and informal versions. I'm Sabrah, your British University English teacher from Love English. And remember guys, if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell. So number one, this one I say all the time. This is, how's it going? How's it going? Nice informal and relaxed phrase. You can use it of course with colleagues if you know them well, but normally we use it with friends and family. So we would say, hey, how's it going? How are things with you? Often we might use a couple of phrases actually as we begin a conversation. Hey, how's it going? How are things with you? We may also begin this with all right, especially if we're, for example, the younger generation, so perhaps under 40 perhaps. We might say, all right, how's it going? We might say, all right, how's it going? Very, very common as well. And actually, all right is very British. In American English, they may have some slightly different phrases to us. So keep that in mind as we go, guys. Number two is, how's life treating you? How's life treating you? And this means, is life being good to you? Or how is life behaving towards you? So we might say, hey, how you doing? How's life treating you? Or simply just, hey, how's life treating you? How are things with you? So like this. Remember that, of course, intonation is important when you say these phrases, so try to say them in a way that expresses interest in the other person's life. Don't call them or start a conversation by saying, hey, how's life treating you? In a very flat way. We normally would say, hey, how's life treating you? How are things with you? Now that phrase is both formal and informal. You can say it to colleagues, you could say it to a superior if you are quite familiar with them. It's important to point out that most of these phrases are used when you already know the person a little bit already. Number three, nice simple one. This is just, how are things? How are things? So you could call someone and say, hey, how are things? How are things with you? Or if you want to extend it to a group of people, you could say, how are things with the family? Or how are things with you guys? Any of those would be fine. How are things? Number five. This one is so simple, but very commonly used amongst friends. If I see my friend, I might be like, hey, you okay? How is everything with you? Hey, you okay? How is everything with you? Particularly over the phone, you can say this one. Hey, you okay? How's everything with you? Number six. This is certainly going to be popular with younger people. And this is, what's up? What's up? Now, I would only use this with close friends, partners, probably not my parents, because it sounds too informal and very much for young people. But with my friends, I might write to them saying, hey, what's up? Or also when I see them, I could say, hey, what's up? How's it going? Or over the phone. It's important to point out though that this really is for informal situations. I wouldn't recommend using it in the work environment, and I wouldn't really use it with older people. I would tend to use it with people who are the same age group as you. You don't want to sound like you're trying to be young, so maybe just use it when you feel comfortable that those people are going to be friendly towards you back. So it's one of those phrases to only use in certain situations.
Who's that?
Yo, pick up the phone.
What's up? What's up?
Number seven, We have actually borrowed this one from the Chinese way of saying, how are you? And I haven't spoken to you for a while, because in English, technically the grammar isn't correct. But we use it all the time these days. This one is, hey, how are you? Long time no speak, or long time no see. Super common now in England, and I'm sure in America as well. Hey, how are you? Long time no see. So nice one to use again with people that you're familiar with. Mostly, again, this is informal. I wouldn't really use it with my boss, but I would use it with my colleagues. Number 8. This is very much a variation of how are things. And this one is, hey, so what's going on? You been doing okay? Hey, so what's been going on? You been doing okay? Again, this is informal. Look at how you can hardly hear you've been doing okay. Have you been doing okay? We actually will cut this in conversation and just simply say, you been doing okay? Because it's informal and we're lazy to say the whole phrase. So this would be, so what's been going on with you? You've been doing okay? And here we're asking about how they've been up to this point, not just now. Tell me about what's been happening in your life. So what's been going on with you? You've been doing okay? Try to repeat these with me, guys, as we go, copying my intonation so that you will say them in a way which is authentic. So copy them with me as we go. So probably best to be somewhere a bit quieter as you watch this video. I don't recommend saying these aloud on the bus. People might think you're inquiring about how they are. You could start getting into conversation with random strangers. That's if they speak English. Number 9. Number 9 is, hey, how are you doing? Is all good in the hood, or all good in the hood. This is very informal and certainly much more used for younger people. In fact, I was a little bit hesitant about including this one as I don't really use it myself, but I do hear younger people saying it and I do hear it said in movies, so I thought, why not include it so you guys can at least understand it if you hear it, even if you don't want to use it. So all good in the hood, or is all good in the hood. The hood is of course short for neighbourhood. So it means is all good in your area, is everything good for you, basically, is what it really means. This is more American, I would say, than British, but we have adopted it now because of course we watch a lot of American movies and things like that. So if you want to use it with a friend that you feel comfortable with, very familiar, you can. I'd probably say that men use it more than women as well, but it does sound cool, I guess. Number 10. This is a more formal one. And this is, are you keeping well? Are you keeping well? So here, if you wish to be more formal, you could always change that hey to hello. I very rarely will say hello except for on the phone. It's just too formal. Most of the time when I'm with friends, colleagues, family, I'll say hey. So if you want to, you can say hello if you feel more comfortable with that, but just to let you know that it is more formal. But here we would say, hello, are you keeping well? Or hey, are you keeping well? And this is inquiring really about how they've been, but it's more formal. Notice how we change how are you to are you well? So really we're almost inquiring about their general well-being. Are you keeping well? Number 11. I thought I would include this one as many of you asked me about this, but I have to be honest and say that I have never used it in my life as I have never had the occasion to. And this is, how do you do? How do you do? Very old-fashioned these days and extremely formal. As I said, I've never had the occasion to use it. Perhaps if I meet Her Majesty the Queen, I certainly will say, how do you do, ma'am? Or if I met somebody very, very important, for example, a CEO of an important company, a politician, a famous person perhaps who commanded quite a lot of respect. Certainly if I met Michelle Obama, I would say, how do you do, ma'am? This kind of thing. But in general life, we just don't use this phrase. It's so formal. Number 12, nice simple one, more informal but can be used formally. It is, how have you been? How have you been? Nice simple one. Hey, how have you been? How is everything with you? How are things going? How have you been? Nice, easy one to remember. How have you been? Number 13. This is one which we will use when we want to ask how someone is during a time of difficulties, when something not so good has happened to them. So perhaps the end of a relationship, they've had ill health, lost a job, then we will use this phrase because it shows more concern. We could say, how are you? How are you holding up? How are you holding up? Or are you holding up okay? And it means, are you coping okay? Are you surviving this okay? Holding up, of course, means are you managing to hold yourself up, hold yourself through this? So, hey, are you okay? How are you holding up? Number 14, again, we use this one much more in informal situations when we want to sound perhaps a little bit cool, a little bit edgy. Again, it's more for the younger generation. This one is, hey, how's tricks? How's tricks? And this means, how are things going? Tricks meaning games, jokes, that kind of thing. How's tricks? Number 15, nice formal one that you can use at work when you want to show respect to family members and things like this. This is, are you well? We would probably actually connect this to how are you. We might say, hey, how are you? Are you well? Are you keeping well? Like the example I gave you earlier. Are you well? I often would greet my grandmother in this way. I certainly wouldn't say, hey grandma, what's up? Or how's tricks? I think she would be a bit surprised, although knowing my grandma, she would probably laugh. But it's much more polite to say, hey, how are you? Are you well? Are you keeping well? So nice formal one also for the work environment as well. Okay guys, they were our 15 expressions and alternatives to using how are you. No more excuses now for repeating that phrase. You have many other options. Tell me please in the comments below, which are your favourites? Which do you like to use? Have you ever used them before? Did you feel confident using them? Tell me about that below in the comments. And if you like this video guys, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. We'll see you soon on Love English. Hope you're all keeping well. See you soon. Bye bye.